and in an interview with a former Marine turned barber.
Gio Ramos in the house. Hell yeah. Thank you for coming, dude.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So, dude, you have a wild story I think everybody's going to appreciate, and everybody's going to definitely learn from your experience over there, especially Marines that are serving right now, because trench warfare and all that fighting like a conventional military or whatever, that's like that could be the next war. So
it is absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of people definitely could learn from you. So are you originally from California?
Yeah, man. I grew up here in SoCal, in Orange County, and both my parents are from Mexico, so first generation.
Okay.
Youngest of 3 boys.
Nice.
And second Marine in the family. My older brother's a Marine too.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, the reason I don't really say too much of where I'm from exactly is just because, the Russians still send me death threats on social media, and, they have their ways of trying to, harass, people through the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Are those just like regular Russian citizens that
I don't know. When I was out there in Ukraine, I was getting a lot of, seems like robots and stuff. Like these Russian propaganda page.
Okay.
They found my Instagram, and they just posted a whole article about me saying that I was an American Jewish Nazi that went to Ukraine. And, they were just saying some outrageous stuff. And it kind of shows the desperation that they have, because they don't know what extreme to go to stir up some hate. They're calling me a Nazi. They're calling me Jews, like they don't know. They're just trying their best to slander people and continue, to gain support for their war effort. They're telling the Russian government is telling the citizens that Russians are fighting Nazis in Ukraine. So, if it's one thing that Russians can all get behind, is they're all proud that they kicked the Nazis' ass in World War II. So, if the government tells them there's Nazis again, they're going to rally up and support that cause again.
Yeah.
And that's the way that Russia's getting support.
That's crazy. Russian, Nazi, Jew.
Yeah.
And you're fucking Mexican.
I'm Mexican American. Yeah. So it was funny when I was out in Ukraine, when one of my buddies, Lou, sent me the article, and they had screenshots of my Instagram, and they wrote a whole piece. I'll send it to you. I'll show it to you.
In like a Russian
It was on
newspaper?
a Russian Telegram channel. Yeah. Where they post like, it's like their little FSB list or whatnot. Their little FBI wanted list. Yeah. So
that's wild.
It's crazy. it didn't last long. Those guys are quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it specifically because you're American? That's why they put you in there?
Because they're telling their citizens that there's mercenaries going to Ukraine and fighting, and I went out there on my own. Like, I went out there on my own as a volunteer. I have no ties to Ukraine. I've never been there before. I don't know any Ukrainian. I went out there because I saw the scale of this invasion, of how big it was. The last time you saw a superpower invading a country like that was in World War II, when Germany invaded Poland. And knowing that Russia was one of our biggest adversaries since World War II, since before World War II, I have the skills as a Marine Infantryman, as well as I was a Navy Corpsman. So I knew I had to go help.
Yeah. So like when Russia invaded, you just heard the call?
Yeah. So what's funny is it was on the news a lot that Russia was amassing its forces on the border, and cheers, bro.
Yeah.
Russia was amassing its forces on the border of Ukraine, kind of posturing that an attack is imminent. And I remember, watching it on the news, and discussing with some of my boys. We have reunions from my boys in 1st Platoon, 1st Squad. And
what unit were you with in the Marine Corps?
I was a 223 Golf Company.
Okay, that's
It's a reserve unit.
Okay.
Out of Seal Beach.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you did.
I was in Pico Rivera, but they moved.
So you reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, and then
Yeah.
Navy Reserve.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we got activated. We deployed, did a UDP. So I joined the Marine Corps because my older brother was a Marine. He was actually in boot camp during 9/11. So he joined, and I remember when the 9/11 attacks happened, even though I was a kid, I knew that meant that we were going to war. And even since 3rd grade, I knew I was going to join the Marine Corps. And on the playground in 3rd grade, I was doing pull-ups every day on the playground because that's what I saw Marines doing on TV. It's everybody that knew me growing up until high school, they all knew I was going to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And I remember, one of the funny moments I had was I was 19 years old working in the ambulance. And I was doing a 911 ambulance company at the time, and we had responded to a shooting in Los Angeles. And it was a drive-by, or some to that extent. Some gang members were shot. Me and my partner are first on scene, and we had 3 patients. One guy was shot in the neck. The other guy was he took two gunshot wounds to the chest. And we rolled up first on scene, and I immediately, we got off. We were first on scene, as the ambulance crew. PD was still kind of clearing the scene, but I look over and I see a guy hanging by a seatbelt, but I see a handgun on the right below him. He dropped the handgun, and it smelled like the shooting had just happened. You can smell the gunpowder and there's casings on the ground. And we're rolling up with a gurney. My partner goes to assess one patient. I go check on this guy because I saw the shiny gun, and I'm like, hey, I want to check that out.
Yeah.
And we get there, and I cut the seatbelt off this guy, drag him out, cut his shirt, and I'm assessing him. And he had 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. And I remember I grabbed a trauma bag, throw on a chest seal, because there was air escaping. It was the first thing I want to do. I roll him real quick to see if there was any exit wound, and there wasn't. I look over, my partner's trying to assess this other guy, but this patient is freaking out. He's not letting anyone touch him and stuff. So I run over there, and I'm trying to hold this patient down while my partner assesses what's going on. And I remember we hear the fire truck coming, and the streets are so narrow, in the hood, right? So the fire truck is taking its own way around, and we find, I look over to my patient to see how he was doing, and I looked over and I stopped seeing him move. It looked like he wasn't even breathing anymore. So I tell my partner, hey, you're on your own, handle this one. I'm gonna go check on this guy here. I go check a pulse, nothing. I started doing compressions, and I remember when I started doing compressions, a fire truck finally rolled up, and this firefighter gets down. He comes up to me, he gets on a knee, and I just see him shining his flashlight at me, and he's reading my badge and my name, and he goes, Giovanni Roman. He goes, you live in Orange County. He knew exactly the city I lived. And I kind of stopped, and he looks at me and he goes, it's me. It's Mr. So-and-so. And this firefighter was my old middle school history teacher. He became a firefighter after I graduated middle school, and I kind of stopped and I was shocked. I was like, no way. And, I was like, we'll talk later. We get this guy. Yeah, we get this guy on the gurney. I still did compression, took him to the hospital, and, we are at the hospital, drop off the patient, do our paperwork, and he meets me there and he goes, how are you? Gives me a hug, and he goes, are you a Marine now? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the Marines, I'm in the reserves, and, I'm trying to be a firefighter. And And yeah, he was very proud, that I stuck since I was a kid. Like that was what, 8th grade.
Okay.
Like, he's known me that I was going to join the Marine Corps. And here I am. Like I have always known I wanted to be a Marine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how that was with the Marine Corps.
What year did you join the Marine Corps?
So I tried to go in as an officer at first because that's what my brother advised me to do. So that was 2012. When that didn't work out, when I wasn't selected for a board to do the OCS program, that's when I went enlisted, and I wanted to be a grunt. I wanted to be an O3. So so yeah, I joined up and went to boot camp. I was in
2012.
2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. So that's when I graduated high school.
Okay.
2012. And yeah, man. And yeah, kind of the rest is history. I joined the Marine Corps, and it was very surreal.
Yeah.
First, arriving there at the yellow footprints and stuff.
Yeah.
I dreamt about this moment when I was a kid. I'd see videos and stuff, and now here I am. Actually doing it.
Yeah, my son wants to be a Marine.
Yeah, man. I think you should. I think every guy should join the military, have some kind of military experience, because
you learn so much.
You do learn so much. You learn, on top of learning a trade, you learn a lot about discipline, a lot about camaraderie, teamwork, the importance of that, and that's not something that's really taught out here in the civilian side.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, our society is
dude, like
weak.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't even get me started, man. Yeah. Like it's crazy where we're going. I think I think we need to kind of bring back a little bit of that.
Bring back bullying?
No, like, so we need to toughen people up, man. Like,
dude, my son had a bully this school year, but my son does MMA. So my son is like, he let it slide a couple times, and then one day in October, my son just got tired and just smacked the shit out of his bully. And then and then they became friends afterwards.
Yeah, because you gain a little respect, you know, for like. So that's good, man. Yeah, it's we need to encourage more of that, for kids, young men to stand up for themselves, because no one else is going to.
For sure. Freaking so did you guys go like anywhere cool for like AT while you were in the reserve?
So I actually got to do a lot of cool stuff because like I got to do a rifle squad, like the Marine Corps Super Squad competition.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and my squad won, so I'll show you a
Was
picture.
that against other active duty
units?
Oh, no way.
And we got, so for the duration of my career, I got to wear a golden shooting badge next to my rifle expert badge. Yeah.
For what, for like a year?
No, for the whole time I was it just becomes part of your uniform.
That's sick.
Yeah. So it was cool. I'll show you a picture.
Yeah, you don't see too many reservists walking around with that.
No,
that's like rare.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool bragging rights when I was.
Yeah, that's badass.
Like that. I'll show you that picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you did a UDP.
Yeah, and we did a UDP. Went to Okinawa, and I got to do a lot of cool stuff there. I mean,
that's fire. You guys got to do that shit.
I got to do. I was meritoriously promoted because I took care of my guys, man. I love being a Marine, and my guys love me. They've always had my back. I'll tell you a funny story. We had a Marine right before deployment that was giving us issues, right? And he had gone UA for a while, came back, and only reason he came back is because one day I get a phone call from a police department background investigator asking me, what do I know about this guy? Because he's applying to be a cop. And I was like, sir, he's been UA. I don't know. Like, you probably talked to him more than I have, because he just kind of just blocked everybody, ghosted everybody.
And just didn't show up for drill.
Yeah, didn't just stop showing up. And he was like, okay. He's like, we're done here with this process. And then a few hours later, he calls me. He goes, "Hey, look, I got stuff going on." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, whatever. If you're really about it, show up to the next drill session, and we'll talk to the command."
Yeah.
But you made me look bad, you know. And I have a good reputation with my Marines. I take care of my Marines, but I can't vouch for you if you're doing shit like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So one day, we're about to deploy. I had just gotten some new boots, and I have a talk with them, and I'm like, "Hey, this is what I expect. I'll be your team leader. Like, this is what I expect from you." I always made my expectations clear. I told them, "Don't make my life hard, and I won't make your life hard." And it's simple. I wasn't one of those NCOs that yelled or like to do that, because I've had NCOs when I was a boot that yelled all the time for anything.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes baseline for them. So now one day when they do need something urgently and they're yelling, you're not going to know the difference, because this guy yells all the time.
Yeah.
My Marines knew that when they see fucking Corporal Roman yelling, it's because someone fucked up or we need something done ASAP. But anyways, so this guy shows up to drill. I tell him, "Hey, show up at this time," right? And he doesn't show up for formation. And I'm like, fuck this, dude, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
So I already started leading my guys in PT. We're doing PT and, counting cadence and stuff. And I look over and one of my guys is like, "Hey, look who's showing up." And this guy's showing up. And on top of showing up hours late, he shows up in the wrong camis. And I'm like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me, dude," right? And the funny thing is, I tell my number 2 guy, my buddy Dorn, I'm like, "Dude, take over. I'm gonna go fucking meet him halfway."
Yeah.
And I fucking run over and I'm like, "Hey, get the fuck at parade rest." Like, fucking stands at parade rest. I'm like, "What's your fucking excuse?" I get mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm fucking over here I gave you a chance to come back in. I told you what time you need to be here. My expectations are clear." And he was like, "Oh, no excuse." And as he's responding to me, I'm like, "Dude, get down, push." And he starts pushing. I'm like, "Get up." And then he starts getting winded. And while he's breathing hard, I smell alcohol.
Oh.
And now I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, "Yo, is that fucking alcohol I smell?" I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I remember I started like kind of poking at him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You had fucking US Marine on your fucking chest. Like, you gotta fucking like own up to this shit. Like, fucking have some fucking honor. Like, you already fucked up once. I'm letting you come back in." And he didn't like that I was yelling at him. And I remember I fucking said something, and he just started kind of talking back. He goes, "What?" And he fucking like kind of brought his arm back, and that's when I fucking pushed him real quick, right? And he just fucking came at me, and we're like fighting. But it's funny because all of a sudden I just hear a bunch of people, and my boy Dorn just comes and he gives me a hug, and he pulls me away.
Yeah.
And he gives me a big bear hug, and he goes, "Hey man, you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And he's like, "All right, bro, you're good." And he like gives me a kiss on the cheek, and then we turn around, and the whole platoon is fucking beating this guy's ass, dude. Like, and it's funny because even the new boots I got are like,
yeah, they're like, "Let me get my shit, dude."
Yeah. But it made me really proud because I know that these guys all had my back, because they wouldn't do that for anybody,
for sure.
And
awesome.
so yeah, it was crazy, man. And like I said, I took care of my Marines. They took care of me. And to this day, like, I still talk to all of them. I check up on them to see how they're doing. And, even when I got hurt in Ukraine, they still called and checked on me. And so, yeah, man, I love being a Marine, and it's even now, like, I was on base earlier today. Talking to some young Marines, giving some advice. So, yeah. So that was my time in the Marine Corps. I got out as a sergeant.
2019?
2020.
Okay. Like early 2020?
Yeah.
Okay. So right before COVID kicked off?
Yep.
Okay. And then you were saying earlier that that your father passed away around that time too?
Yeah. So my dad passed away in the beginning of 2020. Me and my dad were pretty close. And one day I was working in the hospital. I had just gotten a second job at another emergency room. And I did my day shift orientation. And I did my 12-hour shift. And immediately after my 12-hour shift, I got off at 7:30 at night. but I went to go work at my other hospital, so I was pulling a double. So I'm at the other hospital, and I as I'm at my second shift in the ER
Yeah.
at this other hospital, I'm getting a phone call, and it's from like my mom, and then uh, she's saying, "Hey, you need to come home. Something's wrong with Dad." And I was like, "Okay, Mom. Like, call 911. I'm on my way."
Yeah.
And I tell her, "Put the dog inside. Like, I'll get there." And long story short, I ran out of the ambulance bay doors, um, and I got to my house. But the whole time I'm like watching, on the security cameras that we have, and I see the fire truck pull up, I see the ambulance pull up, and mind you, I've worked with those firefighters before, so they know that's my house. And I, I see them go in, but I don't see anyone coming out. And the whole way I'm driving on the freeway, and I'm like looking at the camera, and I'm
like the ring camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, what is going on? And now I'm thinking worst case scenario, like, okay, maybe it's a cardiac arrest. Maybe they're working him up.
Okay.
On there, they're gonna. And I'm already thinking about the nearest cardiac centers they're gonna take him to, because I've worked in the ambulance.
Yeah,
I know
so
the
you already
area.
know. Yeah.
And I get there. I get home, and I run in, and my dad was just laying in bed. He just looked peaceful. All the firemen were standing around the bed. They knew that was my dad. They knew that was my home, so they stayed on scene.
Okay.
To kind of pay their respects and
Okay.
say sorry. And yeah, like my dad, it was Christmas a few weeks before, and I had bought him a Marine Corps grid fleece, right, the waffle top, and he loved it so much. He wore it under
talking
his
about the
work
green one?
uniform. It's a brown one, a
Okay.
tan like grid fleece.
Okay, yeah.
And he was wearing it when he passed away. Like he loved it, and yeah, like it's that was a big eye opener, because I work in the ER, and as much as you're surrounded by, I mean, I was doing CPR on patients a couple times a week, and sometimes you put patients in body bags because you can't save them all, and
Yeah.
you think that you're gonna see your parents get old and get sick and then pass away. My dad was still working; he was still walking around. Like, he just had a heart attack in his sleep, and my mom was watching a novela, in the living room, and by the time, she went to bed, at like 11 p.m., like, my dad was already, out. So yeah, that was, 2020 was a rough year, and then 3 months later, the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So that was a rough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Father's Day was yesterday. So what do you end up doing for Father's Day?
Yeah. So yesterday, I'm in nursing school now, and I had a lot of homework, but I took some time, and me and my dad always had burritos and a Modelo after he'd go on to Camp Pendleton with me. He'd like to go to the PX. We'd walk around.
Okay, yeah.
And so
parents like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, yesterday I kind of went to his gravesite, and I played his favorite music he liked, Los Tigres del Norte.
Okay.
And yeah, I sat down, had my burrito, and I opened up a Modelo for him. I had mine, and I was like, "Hey, happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you." And yeah, I was just kind of reflecting and kind of talking to him, and I miss him every day. And I tell people, like, man, if your dad is still around, if your mom's still around, take lots of videos, take lots of pictures, because you never know, man. You never know. And one day that's all you're gonna have to look back at.
Oh yeah, dude, my parents live in Jersey. Yeah, so I only see them like twice a year. Yeah, I should probably call home more often.
Yeah, man, you should, because you just never know, man. Like I said, you think, me being in the field I am, working in the ER, you think that I'm a little more prepared, but realistically, man, it affects, even though I'm surrounded by it and whatnot, you think you're prepared for it, but when it happens to you and your loved ones, it still hurts.
Yeah.
I was, at least I'm able to say I was really there, and I was always trying to be strong for my mom. When my dad passed away, the coroners came to pick him up that night, or the mortuary people, not the coroners. He wasn't a coroner's case. It was the mortuary people that came to pick him up, and I offered, when the mortuary people showed up, I said, "Hey guys, like, let me help you guys put my dad in a body bag." And they were a little shocked, but I tell them like, hey, I work in the ER. Like I do this often.
Yeah.
I should at least, I think my dad would want that too,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and yeah, I helped them out, put my, package them up, and
Hmm.
it took me a few days. It took me a while to cry, because from that moment on, I know my dad would wanted me to be strong for the family,
Yeah,
and I was mainly there for my mom,
yeah, for
and
sure.
and so yeah, that's how that year went.
Yeah. So, well, sorry for your loss, man.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
man. It's one of those things in Ukraine. I wasn't scared of dying, because if I die,
Yeah,
I hang out with my dad. You
yeah.
know.
Mm. Do you feel like so working in ambulance, were you EMT? Okay,
Yeah, when I worked
EMT.
in the EM,
Okay.
as a 911 ambulance, yeah, I was an EMT.
So do you feel like from your experience as like EMT and seeing everything that you saw, you think it helped you when you were in Ukraine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you phased by the things you saw in Ukraine, or
Yes.
okay?
Yes and no. I don't know. It's when I was phased because, you know, there would be, we'd be in a firefight and I could visualize my shots, and you kind of see that. And it was some of these firefights were very close range. Um, so when you see that after the fact, you're just like, man, like, where humans are capable of doing some fucked up shit to each other,
Yeah.
and like I said, I've treated gunshot wounds and stuff like that, and but like it's just crazy, like you'd think we'd move past, you know, destroying each other in
Yeah.
this day and age. Um, so yeah, it didn't affect me like the traumas and stuff. I've seen traumas as a medic. I was treating, you know, gunshot wounds, shrapnel. Like you learn things. I didn't realize how much like wood from trees, for example, can really mess people up, like wood shrapnel. Um,
Mm. Oh,
because when I
I
think
never even thought of
shrapnel,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you think shrapnel, you think metal, right?
Yeah.
Like
Uh huh.
explosions. But yeah, like there's a lot of times where I was treating it was wood shrapnel, and I was thinking like, there's how is like what this?
Like gigantic splinters.
Yeah, but like who just shred people's like thighs, or just like pieces of metal, like the Russians would hit like a building or a car, and shit would just blow up everywhere. Like it could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shrapnel from anything that's.
Yeah, anything hot, like,
Hmm.
it'll stick to you. I mean, in a sense, it can cauterize, your arm, so there's no bleeding, but it's still gonna hurt like a motherfucker, you
Yeah.
know?
All right. So you got out the Marine Corps 2020, and then
Mhm.
you joined the
The
Navy
Navy,
with
yeah,
as a
so,
corpsman.
yep,
That same
so,
year?
yeah, that's in year,
Okay.
a month later,
Oh, okay.
because I was already in the process, like, doing research and talking to a fire service recruiter for the Navy, because, I was infantry, but because I've been working in the ER,
Hmm.
in the hospital, in the ambulance, I could do a lot of good, and I wanted
Yeah.
to stay in. And my time in the Navy was short, and it wasn't. It was different, going from, a line company, um, as an 0311, as a sergeant, and you go into the Navy. Like even just the, I guess everything was a little more relaxed. I'm used to standing up parade rest and doing this, and
Hmm.
no, it's very relaxed. And then for me, it was weird because as a grunt, you don't see females in uniform.
Yeah.
I didn't really. It was weird for me to see a girl in uniform because we didn't have that at
Yeah.
my old unit. So, um, yeah, it was a process. The cool thing was that in the ER I work at right now, there's a doctor that I've known since I was in the Marine Corps. He's an ER doc, but he was a commander in the unit I was with in the Navy.
Okay.
So that was cool. So he kind of like, showed me the ropes, and
Yeah.
so yeah, he's and once you're in the Navy, like the PT was a joke, man. Like I PT wasn't even a warm up, and
Yeah.
you're used to the Marine Corps where you're kind of like you're almost. I always train with the purpose of like I really like destroy myself.
Okay.
I always work out with the purpose of knowing that like one day my life is gonna depend on my fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that, but I feel like it does 100%.
Do you do like MMA or jiu-jitsu or anything like that?
No, I want to, but I mean, right now with my schedule, I work night shift in the ER. I go to nursing school during the day, so yeah, that's I do want to do it down the line, but right now I'm just
that shit's super fun. I just started doing it.
Yeah, man,
that shit's killer.
Yeah, I mean, we did it in the Marine Corps a lot. And,
yeah,
I mean, dude, we did McMap and stuff, and that was fun. You get your ass kicked for a little bit and roll around, and then it always starts off as like, all right, guys, we're gonna practice, and then all of a sudden you hear like, oh, fuck you, bitch, and it turns into a real fight, and those are fun, dude. So yeah, that'd be cool to do one day, but yeah, not right now.
Yeah, it's a good time. Like every time I roll or whatever and train, it takes me back to those days. Like freaking, it's like hand to hand or just doing Marine Corps shit, doing badass shit. It feels like at home a bit,
There's definitely activities that you can do that kind of bring you back to that kind of camaraderie.
And like it feels so good after. You feel like a man,
Yeah.
Like,
of course. Taking some dudes down. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you joined the Navy in 2020, a month after you got out.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long were you in the Navy Reserve for?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I got out in January of 2022.
Yeah. And then you just
I was still in my IR time.
Okay. So but that was 8 years total then in your initial contract.
Yeah.
6 years reserve and then 2 years Navy. Yeah. And then so your contract just ended like that, right?
Yeah, I got to just kind of opt out.
Okay.
Yeah. They weren't working with my schedule, and I wasn't happy with. It was just a different kind of.
Yeah, it gets old after a while.
Oh man, yeah, and then it's just a different culture, man. Like I saw dudes in uniform that had their nails painted. Like it's just different. Compared to what you're used to. Yeah. So, yeah, man. For sure. So that was that, and I got out in January 2020, and at that time it was already on the news that Russia was.
That's when they invaded. It was like 2022, right?
February 2022.
Okay. Oh.
So I got out the month before.
Okay.
And it's funny because we had a reunion with my boys from First Platoon.
Yeah.
Like the week before the invasion, and we're all drinking, having beers, fucking listening to music, catching up with the guys, right? Having cigars, and then we start talking about current events, and we start talking about how what's going to happen, is Russia going to invade, and I told the guys, I was like, hey guys, if this shit goes down, are we going to go back in, or are we going to go fuck up some Russians?
Yeah.
And all of them, they're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like,
but you're fucking dead ass. You're dead serious.
Oh, I was serious, yeah. And
that's wild.
And yeah, man, like, sure shit. Like, I think the invasion happened on a Thursday night. I'm going to work, and I see on the news, breaking news: Russia has pushed into Ukraine, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is really happening. And I remember I got to work for my night shift, and first thing I did was change all the patient TVs to the news because I didn't want to miss. I was like, we haven't seen anything to this extent since World War II. So in that moment, I told the group chat, I like messaged the group chat with the boys, and I'm like, hey guys, like, are we doing this? I'm hitting up my old leadership, and I'm like, hey, like, any word? Are we gonna get activated? Because I'll go back in, and they were all like, oh, I don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen. Let's stand down. And then the next day, I started hearing. That's when like Zelensky was, like, pretty much saying any foreigner that wants to come and help Ukraine fight Russia, fight evil, and fight for democracy in Europe should come join us.
So it was like that right there, that moment you were just like, I'm doing this?
I knew even before that I was going to find a way to get over there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So like, where did that come from? Is it just like your background as like being a Marine and being an EMT and just wanted to help people?
Yeah, I saw, like I said, I knew when I was watching it on the news, it looked like the reporter. I remember the reporter was talking, and there was like a golden cathedral church behind her, and then there was just buildings getting bombed, and it looked like a movie. It looked like LA was just getting bombed.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a Marine. I'm an infantryman. I'm good with a couple of different rifles, AT-4 rockets.
Yeah.
I was a DMR in the Marine Corps. I'm a marksman, and I was in the Navy. I have, you know, at least at the time, I had at least 9 years, 8 years working in the ambulance or in the hospital.
Yeah. So you're like
I have the skills that they need. You know, like
you're fit for
there's for
that
sure
role.
going to be civilian casualties, soldiers that are fighting, and yeah, I couldn't sit there and knowing something this big was happening. It just wouldn't sit right with me down the line when you know my kids. You know, I want a family one day, and you know they're going to ask, what did you do during this time?
Yeah.
And I told them, I want to tell them I went to help. I don't want to be like these people that are just like, oh, thoughts and prayers, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to help, you know.
This is funny you say that because there's people like in San Clemente, you know, rich people or whatever, with their bumper sticker with the Ukrainian flag and all this, and I always think like, dog, like you're not doing shit with that sticker, you know?
Oh yeah, dude. Like it's, yeah, man. And I can get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I immediately in that moment I was like, I'm gonna find a way to help. I was like my old leadership, like guys that I know that I still talk to, they're still they're not giving me a clear answer because they don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're gonna get activated or what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so when Zelensky put out that call, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do some research. And I started looking up. People are saying, oh, apply to the Ukrainian embassy to go help. You know, they're forming an international legion. And I tried to like message someone and there was no response. And I only gave it like a day. I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting any response. I'm just gonna go. So I'm sitting there at nighttime and uh, I'm trying to plan out how I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, okay, like I got some old gear from my time in the Marine Corps. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna find out. I found out how people are getting there. Those that are going to provide aid. They're flying into Warsaw, Poland, and then catching a cab or getting a ride to Ukraine.
That's crazy.
And so yeah, so then in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I feel like it's only right to update my friends and family. So in that moment, I made an Instagram. I never had Instagram before. I only had Facebook at the time. And now I don't have Facebook, but I have Instagram, and I made it like literally a few days before I went to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I figured that's where I'm gonna update people. And yeah, I bought my plane ticket, and a few days after, I flew out.
Yeah.
And I got to Ukraine.
So you flew into Poland?
Yeah, so I flew out. I took a couple connecting flights, San Francisco to Switzerland. When I was in Switzerland, I was like trying to find out how I'm gonna get to Ukraine because I've never been there. I don't know anyone.
You're just fucking figuring this shit out.
I don't speak the language. Yeah. And so, by God's grace, I'm in Switzerland and I'm an hour away. My plane departs in an hour, and it's an hour flight to Warsaw, Poland. And some people are saying to refer to Reddit, the website.
Okay.
And I've never used Reddit, or anything like that, but I download the app and I see that they have like a little thread going, and somebody had posted, if anyone needs a ride, I'm in Poland, I'm Polish, I just want to help, get some people over there. I'm not military, but I want to try to contribute somehow.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a message and I was like, hey man, I'm going to be in Warsaw in an hour. I need a ride to the border. And we'll call him Tom.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, while I'm at the airport waiting to get on the plane, he replies to me. He sends me a screenshot and he goes, I'm 40 minutes away from the Warsaw airport. I'll pick you up.
Wow. And
I was like, perfect. So I got on the flight knowing, okay, there's somewhat of a plan. And I got there, I linked up with him. He was waiting for me. Cool guy. He was the same age as me.
Yeah.
Never served in the military, Polish citizen guy.
Yeah.
But he wanted to help somehow. And he had a bunch of friends that are going to Ukraine every day and picking up refugees and bringing them back.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it kind of made me very happy to know, like, I'm not the only one trying to contribute to this
Yeah.
this effort.
Mhm.
And so
It made you feel better.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, because yeah, like I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
You know,
That's how I felt when I first joined the Marine Corps.
yeah.
So I was the first one in my family.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers. Oh yeah. Cheers. And then I remember going to MEPS and shit and seeing everybody I was going to boot camp with. I remember that felt a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a good feeling. And dude, he picked me up at the Warsaw airport and drove me to the Ukrainian border.
How far was that?
Oh, dude, like 8 hours.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
You gave him gas money?
Yeah. No, I was trying to give him money and he would not take it at all.
Did he speak English or no?
He spoke English, yeah.
Oh shit.
He spoke English, like that's why I was very surprised. And
Yeah.
we're talking, like he was the same age as me, like it's funny, graduated high school the same years, like
Do you guys
cool.
stay in contact?
Yeah, we still do.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Fuck
we stay in contact, and I don't want to say too much because he's
For
still
sure. Yeah,
contributing to the effort.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a cool guy. And it's funny because when I went back to Ukraine the second time, he picked me up. Same thing, like same plan. Picked me up, dropped me off. But
Okay.
yeah, really good guy.
Yeah.
I love him. And he dropped me off to the border guards, and the border guards asked me, what am I doing here? I told them, look, I'm an American, I'm here to help. I got some trauma gear, I got tactical plate carrier.
Yeah. You have SAPI plates?
I had SAPI plates, yeah.
Okay.
And
was it pretty much everything you got here that
No.
you took over there?
No. This was for my second time over there.
Okay.
I'm gonna make the first time, I'm gonna make it quick without going into too much detail because that's when shit was hot. And
because right there at the beginning and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I showed up and I told them, like, I'm here to help, you know, and they told me, okay, we're gonna go in this van, we're gonna drive you to this recruiting or in this like armed forces area, staging area that they're sending foreign volunteers.
Yeah.
And I get there and this Ukrainian colonel, he looks at me and goes, he comes up, shakes my hand, he goes, why did you come here? He goes, do you just want to kill people? And I look at him and I'm like, no, sir. I'm like, I'm a medic. I could help. I was infantry. I was in the Marine Corps. I was in the Navy. I'm just here to help. I have experience working in the hospital. So if you want to put me in a field hospital or somewhere,
Yeah.
I can go there too. And he looks at me and he goes, you know, right now there's hospitals and schools. The Russians are bombing orphanages, schools, civilian areas. So
That's fucking horrible.
he goes, if you want a chance, like, to fight and live, I'd recommend being a combat medic. And I was like, okay, sounds good, I'll do that. And he's like, okay. He goes, what kind of rifle do you want, 5.56 or 7.62? And I was like, 5.56,
Yeah.
thinking I was gonna get an M4.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I got this. He opened this box and he gave me it was a Belgian, like, FNC rifle. Like, it was just weird because the charging handle's on the side, and
Okay.
it was weird because, you know, we're used to, like, fucking charging handle back
for
here
sure.
and
Yeah.
fucking yeah.
So
and
you're
I'll
like,
never
you gotta
forget.
go like this?
Yeah, it was on the side.
Okay.
And I'll never forget. He gives me the rifle, gives me some mags, and he goes, all right, my friend. He goes, thank you. And he shakes my hand and he goes, happy hunting, my friend. And I was like, oh shit, like, all right.
Wow.
And next thing you know, I'm gonna skip over some parts, but
Yeah.
I find myself in Kyiv. And
Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine.
yeah, and it's what's under attack.
Is that like the biggest battle in Ukraine?
No, I mean, but it's a big modern city, so like it was big in that respect. It's the capital, so like when you invade a country,
Yeah.
you want to take the capital.
How big is Kyiv? Is it like the size of LA or smaller?
I think LA is still bigger, but it's still big. It's big, dude. Like
San Diego?
I don't know, possibly. It's just a big city, man.
City.
Like there's villages surrounding it, and it's still part of Kyiv. Like,
Okay, all right.
Region.
It's like the city and then like suburbs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just wild, man. I remember I was there, and we we get to this like staging area. There's some guys showing up. I was now part of. I was with some other Americans. We're part of the International Legion. So we get to Kiev, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go fight the Russians in a few hours. So we're offloading ammo cans and stuff, and I found some extra mags, so I'm loading them. And dude, it is cold out there. It is cold as fuck. And
And it's wintertime.
It's wintertime. It's
how cold is it over there?
It was snowing, dude. Like
Yeah.
some parts were snowing. That was the first time I saw snowfall was in Ukraine, dude. Like I was born and raised in Southern California. Like it was cold. And I remember I was loading these mags, and I kind of look out the window and I'm like, it's cold as fuck. And I'm wearing some hiking pants that I bought at REI. I have some hiking boots that I bought, as well. And like here I am in a fucking Marine Corps waffle top, like just kind of loading mags. And I remember I look out the window and I'm like, this is gonna be a bitch. We're trying to invade this city. Like I'm looking, everything's abandoned. There's checkpoints with Ukrainian soldiers, and they have crates of Molotov cocktails, like fucking bottle like this. It looks like someone's having a party, but every bottle has a fucking rag sticking out.
Oh.
Like these guys were ready, dude. And they were using buses and parking them in the middle of roads, popping the tires to like act as barricades. They're like blocking off certain roads.
And how is their demeanor? Are they like scared or
no? They're pissed.
They're pissed.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, dude, Ukrainians are amazing. They're fucking brave, dude. Like I always tell people, it was an honor to fight alongside these brave, badass dudes.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians. We had some Georgians with us, and those guys are fucking badass. Like yeah. I
so they're all about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's their home, dude.
That's true, huh?
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm sitting there loading mags. I'm looking around and I'm like, this is gonna be a bitch to defend. And then I remember I look over and I see the same Golden Cathedral Church that I saw the reporter talking,
wow.
in front when I was at work in the hospital when the war started.
Jesus.
I'm like, oh my God, like this is
this is it. Like hit you right there. Like
here I am, Gio. Like, and a few hours after that, I was in my first firefight.
Wow.
In a village forest with the Russian airborne, and we were told we're fighting the Russian airborne. They're parachuting, every few hours, and they were like,
they're getting dropped off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever see them falling from the sky, like parachuting?
Yeah, I saw some parachutes. That's a trip, dude. Like
that's
I
wild,
saw that, and
dude.
I'm like, this is like what we see in movies, dude, in history class.
Yeah.
Like it, and it was just a sight to see, dude. Like I can't explain. There were villages that were burning. Like, at the time I was trying to become a firefighter, so we're kind of patrolling through cutting through this village to make contact with the Russians.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians just said, all right, the Russians are over there, let's walk.
Okay.
And I'm over here trying to remember everything I've learned in the Marine Corps, ITX, like dispersion, shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And dude, it only took a few hours. No, less than that. Like it only took a couple, like maybe 20 minutes to get into our first firefight. But like, dude, these villages were like destroyed, like on fire. And the Russians were using the smoke from burning buildings as concealment, moving around roof to roof. And we pretty soon we started taking artillery, and it was a crazy time, man. I got.
Did you quick? So when you got experienced your first firefight, did you like freeze or anything? Were you? Was it like, oh shit, this is crazy, or?
I knew, I'm very proud of myself with the way I reacted in the first contact, because my first thing is, what they teach us, RTR, return fire, take cover, return accurate fire.
Yeah.
And I remember the rounds were hitting like the fucking dirt close to us, and I took a knee, got next to a wall, and I'm like, everybody's kind of looking around, and we kind of see muzzle flashes up on our roof, and we start fucking returning fire, and it was. I remember I looked down. I was reloading, And dude, that was my first time shooting iron sights too. That was fucking weird.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I'm over
shit.
here like trying to unfuck my shit in the middle of a firefight, and like I remember I like fucking like looked down to grab another mag, and I looked down and I had pissed myself, dude.
Oh.
I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fuck. I'm like, now I can't die because I'm gonna be the one fucking dude that the Russians find with
Yeah.
wet pants. They're gonna fucking take pictures, be like,
Oh,
oh, you
yeah.
know, fucking, you know, this guy fucking pissed himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it was a crazy time, man. We were in the forest getting hit with artillery, and I remember after like the second day there was not a single tree standing in our area because it
Wow.
was just fucking knocked down from all the artillery we were getting hit with. And I remember I got a concussion. I was with this other soldier. We were shooting, and a round landed somewhere behind me, and it flipped me on my like it rolled me. It rolled me, excuse me. And I remember I kind of my ears were ringing. I looked up. I was on the ground on my back. I looked up at the sky, and it was cloudy. And I was like, oh, fuck, that was close, right? The ground was still vibrating. I couldn't hear shit. It's like that scene from Saving Private Ryan where
Yeah,
you
when
can't
he
hear
just,
shit.
yeah.
And I remember, you know, I'm Christian, and my favorite Bible verse is from the book of Romans 8:18. Ironically, Roman is my last name.
Okay.
But it goes, these present sufferings are nothing compared to the glory that awaits us.
Okay.
And in that moment, I'm laying on the ground looking at the sky, and I'm just like, still alive, wiggled my toes. I'm like, I'm good. And I'm like, you know what? If I die tonight, I'll be good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see my dad again. I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be in heaven. So I won't have to worry about getting bombed after that. So
Yeah. So you just
that
kind of like
that kind of
accepted.
takes away the fear. Yeah, I kind of accepted it. You know, like
Okay.
I already accepted it, but that kind of the reality of that near miss and that,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, all right, dude. And I, from that point on, dude, like it's wild. Like when you're not scared and you kind of have peace with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Does it make it a little bit better?
it it doesn't make it better at all. It just kind of, you don't think about dying
Okay.
so much. You
All
don't think
right.
about dying. You focus more on doing your job.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
So in that first fire, how long did that last? A whole day?
a few days.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then eventually
I got
somebody
another
retreated.
concussion. Yeah, yeah. So got a concussion. That kind of wrapped up my first tour. Cut off
Okay.
that first part. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I knew I had to get back to work. I had to come home because I still had my job.
Yeah.
I took a quick leave of absence to be out there, and um, I knew, you know, when I came back to the U.S., I knew I was going to come back to Ukraine, and I was going to find a way to take a longer leave of absence from work.
How long was your leave of absence?
Well, at work they do them by periods of 3 months, but because this was on the fly, I was just using up all my PTO, so I didn't even, yeah, I didn't even, yeah. I'm telling you, I went on the fly, dude. So anyways, I remember I landed back at LAX, and
How long were you gone for?
I can't, I don't want to say that.
Okay. All right.
I remember landing back at LAX, um, and I'm I land here and it's sunny. It's like people were complaining about gas prices. I'm in a taxi on the way home after
So you
like
know this
experiencing
shit.
everything, and yeah, the next day I had to go back to work to the ER.
Dude.
Just like, yeah,
That's trippy.
yeah, it's a trip, dude. And I already knew then and there I'm getting ready to go back because, so you know, backtrack, but in the villages that I was fighting in,
Yeah.
um, the Russians were torturing civilians. They were cutting the ears off old ladies.
Oh yeah.
They were like, dude, we found bodies tied up with iPhone cables and shit like that. Like shit that you would never see here. Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
Um,
So they're over there just fucking
yeah,
torturing people
yeah.
and just.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because we, over here we don't have a single clue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to go back to work the next day, like as if nothing happened. And in the back of my head, I'm already planning, like, next time I go, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this. This is what I wish I had.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to plan,
Yeah.
what I'm getting ready to take with me the following time, trying to find out how I could take time for a leave of absence. And yeah, man, I started getting, in touch with people that were still in country that knew me and in Ukraine. And um, I wound up getting connected with my buddy Yuri, and
And
I
he's
met
in Ukraine?
yeah, and I told him, hey, like right now it's looking like December, the same year, 2022, like I'll be
Okay.
back there.
Wow.
And yeah, man, I took all that time, those months. I didn't talk to anybody really about my time in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to think too much about like the effects of like kind of what I saw. Like
Yeah.
I kind of compartmentalized like that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, we live in a bubble here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just saving money and buying gear, the gear that you see here, for my second time around. The second
Okay.
time I went much more prepared.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was able to secure more time to go. And this time I had contacts over in Ukraine. I had a plan. It's not like the first time where I just kind of fucking went on my own.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got there in December of 2022. I wound up um, enlisting in the Ukrainian armed forces. I was with the 59th Motorized Brigade.
Okay. Oh, so you actually enlisted in there?
Yeah, yeah. Like I have my own Ukrainian military like
citation
file.
and shit?
No, like military record file. They look like our folders. Yeah. It's funny. My name is written in Ukrainian. It's pretty cool to see. Yeah, when it's written in.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah.
So is it just like you sign some paperwork and they shake your hand and then?
No. So I kind of got there first, and I was screened by Yuri, and I was like, dude, these are my certs. This is what I, a little bit about me. I'm a medic. I got TCCC. I've worked in the ER. I got all the shirts. And I get to our little, like our little. We took over like a little village, and that's where we kind of set up our like little patrol base where we get ready to go on missions. And he was explaining
like
to
a little
me,
fob type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was explaining to me that this is what we're going to do. So
is this Kyiv still?
No. This is in eastern Ukraine. At this point, the Russians were pushed all the way back to the eastern side.
Oh, so the
Ukraine was already took Kyiv. Like that whole area, the Russians were gone. It was now on the eastern side. So the 59th Brigade was fighting on the east side of Ukraine, and I remember I knew after our first mission, I knew that I was gonna get hurt because I was like, "There's no way we're gonna be doing this for a few months, and I'm not gonna get hurt." Because I remember that first mission, the Humvee opened up, we dismounted, and as we dismounted, the Russian PKM is shooting at us. 50 cals opened up. I'm suppressing. We get in the prone, right? And I'm wearing the electronic hearing protection. Those Walker's headphones? You know how they amplify the sound of like everything around you?
Okay.
But they dampen the sound of like gunshots?
Okay.
Those I remember we get in our firefight, we're shooting, exchanging fire, and all of a sudden it kind of dies down, like there's a lull. And you hear the Russians turn on their tank. So in the distance you hear like the engine turn on. And then you hear it like crunching through leaves and stuff, and you're like, fuck.
Oh my God.
We need to get into that fucking trench because, and the moment that fucking tank, we heard that tank, that Humvee dipped out because, that tank can take out the Humvee and then we're fucked. We don't have a way to get out.
Okay.
So, dude, we're exchanging fire, and all of a sudden the Russians fucking shoot up loom rounds like in the distance, like, and I thought only we had those.
Yeah.
Like you just see them shoot off like 3 or 4.
Is it nighttime or is it day?
It's nighttime.
Okay.
And they shoot off like 3 or 4, but now it looked like fucking daytime. So all of a sudden I just see these things go up and the night sky lights up and I'm like, fuck. And I look over and then you see that PKM opening up, dude.
Oh my God.
And it was like shooting over, like taking bursts. And then you could hear the Russians yelling at the Ukrainians. Like you could hear them. They're all racking back their fucking, charging handles and stuff.
Yeah.
And you hear them yelling and the Ukrainians are fucking like cussing back at them. And I'm like,
they're so close that you could hear them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus.
And I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, and I remember at one point the fucking PKM opened up like right over me, dude. It sounded like a fucking beehive over my head. Like, it was wild, man.
And you're just like, your face is in the ground.
Oh, I still kept my face up because I'm like, I'm gonna fucking see it, right? But dude, it is so cold. You're in the prone, and obviously now that they kind of have an idea where we're at, they're hitting us with mortars. Mortars, like you hear the explosions nearby. It's kicking up dirt and snow and shit like that. And I remember after that mission, we completed the mission. The Humvee picks us up. And,
how long was all this?
I don't know. I remember we got back to. We probably took off for that mission at like 8 p.m. and we didn't come back to the base till like 7 in the morning the next morning.
Okay. So it's pretty much taking territory, like literally, like inch by inch.
Literally, yeah, yards at a time.
That's fucking crazy.
And you would think, dude, this is happening in 2023 at that point. Yeah. It was like December, January, right? The new year. And we were going on missions.
Quick question. So, like, how many guys were involved in that first mission?
At least 15. At least
15 guys.
At least.
So, like a squad.
Yeah, it was essentially a squad.
Okay.
There's maybe more, maybe not.
Yeah. And then how many guys like survived?
When I was there, even the guys that got hurt, they're all alive. I treated them. Okay. I'm proud to say none of the casualties I treated in Ukraine
passed away. Okay.
I pride myself in that. And I don't want to give out specifics and numbers.
Okay.
Because I know the Russians are watching too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was, and we were also, because I was the only medic in the squad, we were also QRF. So any QRF, any adjacent unit that needed a medic or needed help, like we would go even during the day. I would just hear the interpreter go, "Doc, like, let's go. We gotta go." And we'd all get in the Humvee, grab my med bag, grab everything, my rifle, and go. Very soon, I started kind of teaching the guys some of the combat lifesaver stuff.
Yeah.
We kind of made it a point. Everybody had to have like tourniquets preset to their thighs. That way, it's
okay.
It's easy to tighten.
So already have it.
Yeah, because if you get hit while we're dismounting, while that door's open, we're already taking fire.
Okay.
So it'd be easier for the guys to tighten up. I told them, you tighten that shit up yourself. When we dismount, our first priority is suppression, right? Once we get a good base of fire, I'll come get you. But because dude, there's no Kazovac, there's none of that shit.
So you gotta take care of yourself. Because
yeah. And I'll get to them, and they, I'm happy to say that they were very confident. Like even to this day, dude, they would still have me back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go back?
No, I absolutely do, man. But I want a family one day. I want kids. So I can't be doing that forever. So I'm in nursing school now, and
Hey, can you scoot over a little bit?
Hmm?
Yeah, sorry, because you're in the camera. Oh, it's the kid behind me.
Oh.
Thank you. That's fucking nuts, man.
So come February, Valentine. So actually, we'll backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I remember I felt like after certain missions, I would call home And I come back from. I would always make it a point before a mission to leave my phone at the base. Because if I was killed, I didn't want the Russians looking through my shit and my phone and all the dick pics. I can't have them see that shit, right? And also on my vest, if you see my pictures, I always had 3 rounds right here in my mollied into the little molly strap.
Okay.
Because if shit ever got bad and we were surrounded, I was gonna just load an empty mag. I was gonna go down fighting, but I was gonna load an empty mag, and if I had my phone, I was gonna shoot my phone, and then I was gonna because I wasn't gonna let them capture me and torture me and have that shit on fucking camera. Like, there's no denying I'm an American, fucking Marine.
Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's one of those things you have to get comfortable.
I don't know if you're open to talking about it, but so the Ukrainian soldiers that the Russians will capture, they will torture them.
Yeah, they tortured them, man. The Ukrainians or the Russians are so convinced that they're fighting Nazis. And so what they would do, they would, the Ukrainian soldiers that they do capture, they'll beat the shit out of them. And then they'll take off their fucking shirts and make them put on a shirt that has a fucking Nazi logo, Nazi symbolism, and put them in front of a camera and just, force them to say shit.
Yeah.
And and they show that clip to their media, and their media shows it to the people, and that's how they kind of, it's a communist government. They control all that. So, I mean, dude, I fought in the Ukrainian military, the 59th, and we had adjacent units that I was told after the fact, but they were Azov guys. And dude, we talked to them before on missions. We get little briefings before a mission, and they would talk to me. They'd be like, "Oh, you're Mexican American." I'm like, "Yeah." And dude, these guys were super cool, man. There was one mission where this guy, he really cool. He gave me an energy drink. We shared an energy drink right before a mission, and we go to attack this trench position, and we were getting hit with a tank. I remember there's a video on my Instagram of that mission where
it's dark.
It's nighttime.
Oh yeah, I was watching today.
Yeah, you could hear the tank round going through the air. Like, you can hear the propulsion of the tank round. And I remember we're getting hit. We're also getting hit with Russian AGS-17 rounds. It's like the Mark 19, the Soviet Mark 19.
Okay.
So we're getting hit with that. And I remember, we're returning fire. I see the muzzle flashes, and I had my buddy, the guy who was with Azov. He's right next to me, and he stuck close to me, and we're shooting. And anytime I saw him move closer, move up, I'd move up with him. And then some of the guys that were with me from the 59, we'd all kind of move. And then at a certain point, one of our guys went down as a casualty, and I bring him over, drag him into a little ditch, and I'm working on him real quick because I noticed his hand was wet, but I still had some moonlight, but it was blood. And I'm like, "You good?" And I'm taking care of him. And I remember I look over at him. He looked at me, and he saw that I was trying to pull this guy down into a little ditch, and he ran over. And as he ran over, a round landed right in between us. It exploded. And I remember I turned around, and after the snow and everything settled, I looked over, and I'll never forget, man. Yeah, I just saw his body. I saw his Kevlar just face down, not moving. And I'm like, fuck, dude. It's just I'll never forget that. I still see it. And I'm like, no, this can't be it, right? I run over, I kind of reach over, and I'm dragging him, dude. And Ukrainians, these guys are big boys, man. They're tall, and I'm dragging him with everything I can. I bring him into our area, and I kind of smack him awake, and he wakes up, and he kind of just leans over, starts throwing up. And that's when I go over the radio, and I radio Yuri for Kazovac. I'm like, "Hey man, we have our little code word for casualty." And on his side, they were no shit firefight, so he's stand by. And I'm like, "Hey," I kind of gave him where I was at, the description, and she's like, "Roger that." And he's the one that told the driver of the Humvee, "Hey, this is where Doc's at, he needs help." And And I remember I'm like doing what I can to treat these guys right now under these circumstances. Still trying to return fire. We're still getting hit with that tank round, right? And next thing you know, in the distance, I hear the 50 cal, and I'm like, okay, cool. 50 cal is like, he's coming. And so, we load up the Cowsies. They show up, no shit firefight, and one of them didn't look so good. So in the Humvee, I jumped in, and he's like, we'll drop you back off here, and yeah, I'm like doing what I can for the casualties in the Humvee, dude. I'm like dangling I had a headlamp, and I just kind of hung it from one of the turret straps, and I'm like using that as light as we're racing away from the fucking combat area. The 50 cal still going, trying to do what I can. There's like fucking shell casings coming down.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, man. Like, that's just one mission, and I remember like after missions similar to that, after my mission, I always made it back to base, thank God, and I'd read a little verse from my Bible, and I'd grab my phone, and I would call my mom on FaceTime, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'd check on her, and it's funny, man, because she would answer the phone, and she'd be like, "Hey, mijo," and she's outside, right? And it's like sunny California, blue sky over here where she's at, and I'm like, oh my God, like. There was a couple of times where I was choked up because I'm all dirty and fucking grimy. My ears are ringing still from this firefight a few hours before. And over here, it's like nice and sunny. Like, she's like, "Mijo, how are you? ¿Qué tienes?" And I'm like, I kind of just cheered. I'm like, "Mom, I'm good. Just want to check in,
Yeah.
And I would go on Instagram, and dude, I would go on Instagram, and people are like, I had coworkers that were like, posted on their story 3 hours ago. They're on a vacation in Mexico, like on the beach, like with a drink, and like, they're taking pictures and stuff. And it was like posted 3 hours ago, and I'm like, dude, 3 hours ago I was like getting my shit rocked by this, artillery or firefight. And yeah, man, like it just kind of made me realize, like, dude, and I realized it more when I came back, but dude, we live in a bubble. And yeah, I always tell people, out here, like, it's only a matter of time before shit hits the fan here, and that's why you got to stay ready.
Yeah.
Now, the mission where I got hurt, it was Valentine's Day
Of last year.
Of last year, yeah, Valentine's Day 2023. We went on a mission the day before, and that mission, we got hit with white phosphorus. Like, the Russians were using white phosphorus.
Okay. Can you explain exactly what white phosphorus is?
White phosphorus is banned by the Geneva Convention, and it's essentially like burning phosphorus. It's like the equivalent of like napalm to like Vietnam.
Okay.
It's like that shit burns through armor. It burns through.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, it burns through everything. And I remember, the next morning. Does it
keep spreading if you put water on it?
It still burns. Yeah,
okay.
It takes a lot for it to stop.
Okay.
And I remember we came back from that mission. I was trying to kind of calm down and relax because that really scared me.
Yeah.
And just when I thought I closed my eyes, like, the interpreter comes in. He's like, "Hey, Doc, like, Yuri, let's go. We got a mission." And I remember, I kind of like woke up already. I'm like, fuck, already? And I did everything I do before a mission, man. I text my buddy Scott. I text my buddy Scott, and I'm like, "Hey, this is I'm going on a mission, man." Like, our code word for mission was, "Hey, man, I'm going to work." Okay. So I'd be like, "Hey, man, I got work right now."
That's a crazy way to say you're going to work.
Yeah, because I don't want to give specifics in case they're tracking me. So I just said, "Hey, man, I'm going to work." But he kind of knew. We already established an SOP between me and him. If he was my emergency contact, so if something went down, the Ukrainian government was going to call him, not my mom. Yeah. And I told him, "Hey, man, I'm going on mission, or I'm going to work." And he's like, "All right." I remember I realized it was Valentine's Day, and sorry, you're gonna cut out. I feel like I'm stuttering a little bit. That's my
I
fucking
think
TBI. You're gonna cut that off, right? When I kind of stutter a bit.
honestly, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, when like it just shows that you're just a
Okay.
regular human being.
Yeah.
You know.
Fucking TBI and shit. But, you know, I realized it was Valentine's Day, and I had ordered my mom some flowers to be delivered. Even from Ukraine, I ordered some flowers to be delivered to her, to the house here.
No, you made me look like a shitty son.
And I call her and I'm like, hey, Mom, like, I gotta go, but there's flowers being delivered today, so make sure the dog's inside, doesn't scare off the mailman, right? Yeah. And she's like, okay, mijo. And that was the last phone call I made to my mom with me having two eyes.
Yeah.
We go on the mission, and you know, it started off normal. We fuel up the Humvee, and I kind of get off, and I was petting a stray dog. I always kind of, while we were fueling up the Humvee to get ready, I would pet the stray dogs out where they were, kind of just have a cigarette to calm the nerves down. Mm-hmm. And I have the picture of me, like one of the last pictures of me with two eyes was when I was petting one of the dogs. And we get in the Humvee, and we get to this position, and Yuri opens up with a 50, and you know, they're laying down fire, and I'm still in the Humvee. I'm in the back passenger seat, and Yuri's opening up with a Humvee. I'm passing him ammo cans, right? And all of a sudden, I hear him like yell, "I got a light on the left side." And he kept saying it, right? So already, like me in the Marine Corps, they always teach you relay the message, right?
Yeah.
And as I hear that, I start saying, "Hey, he's got a light on the left side." But before I even finished that sentence, that light he saw coming was a rocket that was coming towards our Humvee. So we got hit with an anti-tank rocket. It's called a Cornet missile.
Yeah.
And as I was repeating what he was saying, it just felt like someone punched me in the face, and I felt an explosion. Like you heard an explosion, felt an explosion, felt like someone punched me in the face. And I remember I kind of was shocked. I was stunned, and I'm like, "Fuck!" And I hear Yuri go, "Get out the vehicle, get out of the Humvee." And I'm thinking they're attacking us, right? So I'm like, I have my rifle between my legs, and I'm thinking, where are they?
Yeah.
And I thought I couldn't see because it was nighttime, because I could still see.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked down because I was going to do like a speed reload or something. And when I looked down, I realized I was covered in blood. The Humvee was on fire. I was on fire. Or like the fucking platform. The shit was burning. And I remember that's when I stopped. I'm like, something's not right. I'm covered in blood. And immediately I hear the Ukrainians run up to my door, and they're screaming, "Doc, Doc." And they're trying to pry open the door. And they finally eventually do. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, kind of shocked, like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And they grab me by my arms, they start dragging me. And when they were dragging me, that's when I knew something was wrong. Because I'm the medic. Normally I'm the one dragging dudes, right? So now they drag me to the other Humvee, and they lay me down on the fucking gunner's platform. And I'm laying there, like, my face down, and I just see this blood puddles getting bigger and bigger. Oh. And I'm like, something is not right. Whatever's going on right now, this is not good. And it just kept getting bigger, dude. Like this, I was bleeding all over the platform. Yeah. And I was like, where's everybody at? Like, they kind of just left me there. And I'm thinking, you know, back to paramedic school, I'm thinking about shock, like stages of shock, like, you know, decompensated shock and all this. And I'm laying there, and I start thinking, I'm gonna die. Like, this is it. And, you know, working in the medical field, you kind of see, like, when some patients are about to die, they say that they see a bright light, or they see a deceased family member. And I'm over here, like, I hear a drone outside, I hear a commotion, I hear gunfire, and what they were trying to do, they were getting like the 50 out of the Humvee. They were trying to just take everything that we had, essential in that from the first Humvee that got hit.
Yeah.
But the Russians still shot 2 more rockets at it, and I'm sitting there just bleeding out, and I'm like looking around trying to see if I could see a bright light, but I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, I'm like, maybe I see my dad, like maybe his hand, someone's gonna come get me. Nothing, man. And I don't know how much time passed, but I'm sitting there bleeding out and I start throwing up. I couldn't control that I was throwing up.
Yeah.
And they finally get everybody in the Humvee and they're like talking Ukrainian, looking at me, and I don't know how long it took. I know I stayed awake the whole time. It seemed like forever that it took us to get to the hospital. And I have the video from when they dropped me off at the little casualty collection, like makeshift hospital.
Yeah.
And
did you feel the pain already?
No, I didn't feel pain.
You're just
bleeding.
Adrenaline and shit like that.
And I remember I get to the hospital and they drag me. They're like trying to get me out of the Humvee. They drag me and they put me on a backboard. And that's when I'm like, I knew immediately I'm on a backboard because I was in the ambulance. When I worked in the ambulance, we put patients on backboards too.
Yeah.
And then they put me on a gurney, and I'm like, this feels weird. Like I was like kind of laying there. And I was looking at the lights because they're pushing me on a gurney, and I'm thinking, am I back at work? Like, am I back at my hospital? Like, this is weird, you know?
So you're just like disoriented?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I remember they sat me up at the room where they got me in. They sat me up, and they were like, because I had grenades clipped onto my vest as well, and they sat me up, and they were removing my vest. But I remember when they sat me up, everybody in the room that looked at me, like the doctors or nurses, they all looked freaked out when they were looking at me. And that's when I'm like, something's not right.
Yeah.
And they like laid me back down. They're cutting my shirt. And now in my head, I'm like, all right, you're good, Gio. Like, you're good. You're good. I just kept telling myself. And I knew what they were doing. They're starting IVs on me. I'm like, okay, you're good. You're where you need to be. And in that moment, it's just like, I just passed out. It just seemed like I just woke up again. And I don't know how much time. I think it was over a day that I was out. I woke up, and I remember I sat up, and Yuri, was it Yuri? And one of the other Americans that was with us, Bryce, he looked at me. He goes, "Doc, like, you lost your eye, man." And I was like, "Fuck! Like, what happened?" He goes, "You guys got hit by a Hornet rocket, which is like the U.S. equivalent of a TOW missile."
Yeah.
And it's meant for tanks, and they hit us in a soft armored Humvee.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You lost your eye." And my first question was, did anybody die? He's like, "No, everyone's fucked up, but everyone's alive." And I'm like, all right. And that's when I was like, I need to start making phone calls. I need to start calling my mom or calling Scott so he could tell my mom. And yeah, man, like that was when, these pictures of me with that bloody gauze,
Yeah.
I took some pictures, and then, I mean, we'll put the picture up of,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad the fracture was, but my whole orbital was fractured. I had a brain bleed. I had shrapnel all over my face, my fingers, my middle finger was fractured. I still have shrapnel to this day in my hand. That's the gear I was wearing. Are you going to show the gear?
Yeah.
That's the gear I was wearing. You can see the gloves that were hit. And sorry, bro. Let me see this real quick. So yeah, man, I started making phone calls and talked to my best friend Scott. Scott, dude, he like started organizing because I still had to buy my own plane ticket to come back to the U.S. I was there as a volunteer, so I still had to buy my own plane ticket to come back. And I just told the people at the hospital, I just want to be stabilized enough to fly. And to fly back to the U.S., I'll go back and I'll get treated here. Because the Ukrainians, they did everything they could to stabilize me. They did amazing. They saved my life.
Yeah.
I don't know how much blood I got. I got a bunch of units of blood, but I knew they're stretched thin, and I I knew I needed to come back to the U.S. and get treated here because, um, yeah, I knew like at that point like my fight was over. I needed to get home, but I didn't know if I was gonna even make it home. Um, it was it was scary. I called my buddy Scott and he's like, we're doing everything we can. He started up a GoFundMe because he already knew I was over here on my own dime and I don't have insurance. So, because I was on a leave of absence, you're not covered by insurance. So he set up a GoFundMe, and long story short, with that, I was there in Ukraine for like a week. They transferred me to different hospitals. I had one emergency surgery there. Um, they, I got out of Ukraine, flew back from Poland to the U.S. to another airport in the U.S. and then to here to California. My mom was waiting for me, and she took me straight to the ER that I work at.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because the doctor that and everybody at that point kind of knew I was hurt. My buddy Scott was already kind of calling.
So they knew that you were over there in Ukraine?
Yeah, they
Okay.
knew. Um, and my buddy Scott was already trying to he started the GoFundMe. He's calling news reporters to kind of get my story out there so I can get some help.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got back here to the U.S. and straight to the ER that I work at. My mom picked me up, and I was still like in a bloody gauze,
Wow.
with just a beanie and
holy shit.
yeah. And then I get to my hospital, and the doctor that was there, that was assigned to treat me, was the doctor that I served with in the Navy, my good friend.
Oh.
So he had experience,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
so yeah, they did more CT scans. They saw that my brain was bleeding. I had whole orbital fracture on this side too, shrapnel. They diagnosed me with a bunch of shit, obviously, like TBI, fucking, I don't know what else, man. But I was in the hospital here for about a month, and then I went home and I was still like on IV medications for a whole other month. And it's just crazy, man. You come back here and, you know, nothing changes here.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I'm laying in the hospital and I would still get like flashbacks from like certain missions, or like I'll feel the impact again. I'll wake up and I'm back here in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then I'd be in so much pain. That's when the pain started setting in because I got a really bad infection. I got osteomyelitis from the infection from the shrapnel, and they were scared of that infection like reaching my brain and stuff. So I was in so much pain, man. And I remember I'd wake up from these nightmares. I'd be in extreme pain, and I'd be looking down. I'd go on my phone to kind of like ask, or I'd go on Instagram. At this point, people on Instagram are checking up on me because I had posted what had happened, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, Gio, like you're a hero. You're so brave. You're so strong. And I'm over here like at night in this hospital, like just in so much pain. Like,
Yeah.
you don't feel like a hero, dude. You're just laying there. Like, I don't feel like a badass. I don't feel like, I know everybody means well. They meant well, but
Yeah.
you know, people don't understand, and I don't expect them to, but when you're going through it, like, you just feel so alone. I only had like my little circle of friends, my best friend Scott,
Yeah.
you know, um, that guy, I'm closer with him than I am my own family members. Funny story with him is I met him while I was working in the ambulance, and I he was at the time, he was a little older than me, but I convinced him to join the Marine Corps. I was already in the Marines, and he wound up joining and got stationed with me. So we deployed together, and now he's a cop in like my nearby city.
Okay.
And so, yeah, man, like he was there for me. Same with my mom, my brothers, and you could have all these, people like. I saw some. It goes like, you could have a million followers on Instagram, but when you're dying in a hospital bed, you're only gonna have your loved ones with you,
for sure,
and that's it. You know.
That's true.
So yeah, man, that's it's kind of been.
Can I see your microphone? Let's see the green light is on. Oh, yeah, all right, you're good.
Yeah, so that was been a process, man. Ever since then, you know, I realized I couldn't be a firefighter anymore. You know, this injury cost me, you know, my dream career.
Yeah.
And so, with the medical experience I have now, I'm in. I applied for nursing school, and I got in, and I'm on my. I've already completed a couple terms.
Nice.
And yeah, the plan now is to be a trauma nurse somewhere, and continue helping in that aspect. So
nice. Let's see. When you were in Ukraine, did you have to? You ever experience like those drones that freaking?
oh yeah,
Was that a thing when you were there?
yeah.
Or
Oh yeah, dude.
is it both sides? I'm assuming it's both sides.
Both sides are using drones, dude. You could. There was one mission where we shot off some mortars from this destroyed village in his backyard, and after we shot off the mortars, we're rolling up the mortar tube and everything, and we just hear a buzzing sound, and we just hear the zzz, and I remember everybody just booked it, all the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And they just kind of ran into this nearby house, and then me and Yuri just booked it, and we just jumped through this window of this house. But I remember Yuri was in front of me. As I was running, I was like kind of looking up, but dude, you can't see it. It was just cloudy, so you just hear the buzzing sound, but you don't see the drone.
Yeah.
And you don't know if it's going to be a reconnaissance drone that's just kind of trying to figure out where you're at, or if it's a suicide drone that's going to just crash into you, or if it's just a drone that has some ordnance that's going to drop on you and then just leave. So, dude, yeah, there was points where you could see the drones, but I mean, dude, good luck trying to take it down, you know?
But when you hear it, it's probably like too late, huh?
When you hear it, you don't. I mean, you don't want to stick around and stay still and find out. Just book it.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I remember we jumped into this house, and this house, it was in the village, and like, dude, there were still pictures of the family on the wall.
Yeah.
It was ransacked. The Russians had occupied that village before, so like, dude, they had like looted a bunch of shit, but there was still like toys on the ground, kids' rooms. Like, it's just, you're fighting in someone's house.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's a night and day difference. It's crazy what 13, 14 hours of flight time can do from here to there. You know,
a whole different world.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. Wow. Did you ever like witness a suicide drone?
Yeah, but I want to.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, so for what advice do you have for Marines today?
So I actually just, and I was in Camp Pendleton today, but one thing I'm doing now is I'm going to different units. I'm trying to go to more units. I've only spoke to a couple guys from 2-1, and I was very impressed because I went over there and I started talking about my experiences, you know, assaulting trenches and drone threats, and man, these kids, dude, they're so young, like, and it's crazy because the questions they were asking me, it kind of erased the doubt in my mind, you know, saying,
like, are they ready?
They're ready. Yeah. They're asking all the right questions. There's no doubt in my mind that the Marines are still going to continue to fuck people up, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, the main thing I kind of tell them is, you know, we get into tactics and stuff, and hopefully I'm able to talk to more units, right? That'll have me. But the number one thing I'd say is stay ready, because if it doesn't happen over there, shit's gonna go down here. I tell them, like, guys, I got out of the Marine Corps years ago, and I've been to combat, and right now I could still crank out 30 pull-ups. I could still run a first-class PFT.
Yeah.
Like I have shrapnel in my hand, it hurts, but dude, I could still, you know, lift weights and I go gym every day because you got to stay ready, man. Um, one day your physical fitness is gonna save your life. Your
Yeah.
life is gonna depend on that. And I tell them like a lot of Marines, a lot of veterans get out of the military and they kind of just let themselves go.
Hmm.
And when you're out here interacting with civilians, you know, God forbid, you know, you're on a date with a girl or something and there's an active shooter, she's gonna know, oh, you're in the Marines, like, or her friends, someone's gonna say, you're in the Marines, like, help.
Yeah.
And you'd be doing a big disservice if you're just kind of sitting there like you have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
You can't even fight or, at least help treat, casualties or do something.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys, they rock bumper stickers and ring tattoos. Like, I feel like they should still, like, stay ready and stay fit because that plays a big part in, you know, being ready for any emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, I work in the emergency room and a lot of nurses, they know that if, there's a patient that makes them uncomfortable, or there's a combative patient, who do they call for? They call for me, another, guys that are fit, that could handle,
Yeah.
they're not scared to fight if it needs to come down to it.
Yeah.
So, I tell them that, yeah, you're in the Marine Corps now, you're fit, you're young, but try to keep that up when you get out. Like, don't, you know, don't, I mean, I know life happens, man. We're not always going to stay fit, but at least have some knowledge, get some, TCCC training, some first aid courses, be ready to be of service to other people because, it's once a Marine, always a Marine. And it could be 20 years from now as an old man. Yeah, maybe you can't fight, but and if you can, you can. But if not, hey, at least you could treat casualties. You could move people. You could, and all that requires is for you to be physically fit. You know, um, the way that you respond to stress, I feel like your physical fitness has a big influence on that. The longer, the more you expose the more you stress your body out, you bring up your heart rate by working out and stuff like that.
Mm.
Your heart is going to learn to kind of regulate itself back to normal. And then when you work out again, your heart rate picks up, but then it regulates itself. So now when you're in an emergency situation, your heart rate's up, it's going to learn to kind of control itself and you're going to learn to kind of keep cool, be calm under pressure.
Yeah.
And I feel like your fitness level really determines that. I'm proud to say, when I was out there, I mean, there's a video on my Instagram where I was getting hit with tank fire, there's machine guns and stuff, and there's rounds landing right next to me, and you just hear me go, fuck. In the same low, I wasn't yelling, I wasn't screaming.
Yeah.
And I kind of look over and I'm one of my Ukrainian guys, I'm like, hey man, you good?
Mm.
Keep calm. Because if I start freaking the fuck out and all this stuff, it's going to be very easy for them to tell where I'm at. And you think it's going to make these guys,
Yeah.
Feel any more scared than they already are, that their fucking medic is
Yeah.
freaking out, So, I tell these Marines, you always got to stay ready. You're a Marine for life. Try to be as fit as possible, as strong as possible, because Marines aren't, we don't have adversaries just overseas too. We got domestic terrorism, people that want to hurt good people here.
Yeah.
And whenever innocent people need help, the Marines are always called to help. So, once you take that oath, that you're never gonna. It's never. There's never gonna be a time where your time is up and you don't need to swear by that oath anymore. No.
Yeah.
You gotta. You swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and American citizens. You have to do that. It doesn't matter, dude. If you're an old man, like, you'll never get me out of a fight. If I have to, I'm going to the range and I'm learning how to shoot now with my left arm, left hand, right? I was right-eye dominant. Now I'm changing it up. I'm still learning how to shoot.
Yeah.
I'm taking a TMP course, a tactical medical practitioner course, here in a few weeks, and I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited too because it's all TCCC stuff, TECC stuff, and it's going to be my first exposure back to like when I plate carry and stuff like that, and you know, to treat casualties and stuff like that. It's going to be taught by like special operations guys, and I'm excited to learn. Like I've been to combat. I've had the real experience, but just because I experienced that doesn't mean I can't learn anymore. You know, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm still doing what I can. It's a pain in the ass because nursing school's keeping me busy.
Yeah.
You know, on top of that, like I'd be lying to you if I say I still don't have nightmares. It's every day. Some days are better than others, but I just keep myself busy, man. I still try to keep that warrior mindset. You know, just because I'm out of the fight and just because I'm hurt, I got one eye now. Dude, I can still shoot. I can still run. I can still help.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as I'm able-bodied, I'm still gonna do what I can to help.
Yeah. Your buddy Yuri, is he still out there fighting?
He was. He's. I can't say where he's at right now.
Okay.
Just for his.
But he's still.
Yeah.
He's
still active in the effort. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh. Your patches and all that good stuff.
So, I'm selling patches, from the unit that I was with in Ukraine. It's a little spin off of what our original logo was.
Let me grab it from the wall real quick.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see from the shadow box.
Yeah.
Our original logo in our squad was the skull with the eye patch. This is before I even got hurt.
Yeah.
So ironically, it's the same eye that I lost.
Hold it up.
It's the same eye that I lost, and my buddy designed it so it has the little medical star on top, and it says Doc, which is my call sign in Ukraine, and my initials, GR. It says 59th Brigade, Reconnaissance Strike Group. And here it says Glory to Ukraine. And if you look up the 59th Ukrainian Motorized Brigade, this is their slogan. So to help pay off the medical stuff and help me with school and whatnot, I'm selling patches and I'm selling challenge coins. The challenge coins have the same logo. It just has my picture on the other side. It says USMC, US Navy, Sergeant Roman. It says Armed Forces of Ukraine, along with my favorite Bible verse, which is Romans 8:18, like I'd explained beforehand. But hopefully, if some of you guys are interested, it would mean a lot if you guys support and buy a patch or a coin. Yeah, just throwing that out there. And if you guys want me to talk on to your guys' unit, infantry unit or medical units, I'd be more than happy to do that. So yeah, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't share my experience to the Marines and our soldiers that are still in right now that are going to be the ones fighting the next war. I want to tell you guys everything. I only went into so much detail here, but if I'm able to talk to some guys, we'll go into more detail. Yeah.
Sure. I think that pretty much wraps it up, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming through, bro.
Yeah, bro. No, thanks for having me, dude. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Good time.